Let's dive into this. Welcome to another explainer. Today, we're unpacking something that is absolutely crucial for anyone evaluating a new business venture. We are breaking down the core philosophy of a company called the Verdict Studio. Now, their entire mission is super clear. They help people make significantly better evidence-based business decisions before, and that's the key word here, before they invest their precious time or hard-earned money. Think about how often we see these opportunities floating around, right? Side hustles promising passive income, franchise opportunities, MLMs, expensive online courses, or even those high-stakes tech startups. Millions of people jump into these ventures every single year, but how do they actually decide to pull the trigger? That is exactly what we're going to explore today. I want you to genuinely reflect on this for a second. What truly drives a business decision? When someone finally decides to write that check or sign that contract, is it actually based on hard, undeniable evidence? Or is it the result of a highly polished, glossy sales pitch? It is incredibly easy to get swept up in the excitement of a shiny new franchise or those perfectly curated testimonials you see for online courses. We're human. We are naturally wired to be optimistic, especially when a recruiter or a slick marketing video is actively pressing all of our emotional buttons. We really want to believe the promises. But when you look closely at how most people evaluate these side hustles or startup ideas, they are usually being pulled in by a carefully crafted story rather than objective facts. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the total contrast between these two completely different mindsets. This is a crucial trap so many ambitious people fall right into. On one side, you have decisions driven by hope, external pressure, and those glossy pitches. That is a highly emotional state, and quite frankly, it's a dangerous trap specifically designed to capitalize on your enthusiasm. On the other side, you have structural mechanics and evidence. Now, structural mechanics are essentially the invisible gears of a business. They are the fundamental operational realities that literally do not care about your enthusiasm, your passion, or how good that sales pitch was. The reality is, the vast majority of people never check these underlying gears. They buy into the hype, but it's always the structural mechanics that actually determine your success or failure. So what's the ultimate antidote to that hope and hype trap? It's remarkably straightforward. Professional, evidence-based analysis. And this is exactly what the Verdict Studio provides as their core solution. Instead of relying on gut feelings, late-night inspiration, or the persuasive promises of someone who only gets a commission if you sign up, this approach takes a cold, hard look at the facts. It's about systematically stripping away every ounce of emotion and replacing it with pure, unadulterated evidence. Think about it like a master architect looking at a blueprint. An architect doesn't care if the building looks pretty on the outside if the foundation is built on sand, right? They check the load-bearing walls. This methodology does the exact same thing, but for business opportunities. Which brings us to the magic number here, 5. We are now transitioning into the 5 critical structural areas that, honestly, most people completely skip over when they get starry-eyed about a new venture. People get so hyper-focused on the potential upside that they totally ignore the structural integrity of the idea itself. But if you really want to know if a business, any business, whether it's a local coffee cart or a massive software platform, will actually survive the harsh realities of the open market, these are the 5 specific areas you absolutely must investigate. You literally cannot afford to ignore them if you want to protect your capital. And this brilliantly illustrates the rigorous framework used to evaluate any venture. Let's walk through these 5 pillars together. Number 1, uniqueness. Does this idea actually solve a unique problem, or is it just more noise in an already crowded room? Number 2, market readiness. Is the market actually prepared and hungry for the solution right now, or are you, say, 10 years too early or 5 years too late? Number 3, real demand. Now, this isn't perceived demand or your mom saying it's a great idea. This is actual, measurable willingness from strangers to pay you money. Number 4, brand staying power. Will this concept still be relevant and defensible in 5 years, or are you just chasing a fleeting 6-month trend? And finally, number 5, hard unit economics. This is the ultimate reality check. If it costs you $10 to make a product, but the market will only tolerate paying $9, no amount of brilliant marketing will ever save that business. If an opportunity fails on any of these 5 pillars, you've got a massive structural problem. Okay, so after putting an opportunity through that intense, unemotional gauntlet of those 5 pillars, where does that leave us? Well, the analysis doesn't just hand you a dense 100-page report full of confusing data points and wish you luck. No way. The Verdict Studio methodology is specifically designed to force a definitive outcome. All of this intense structural analysis culminates in a definitive, irrefutable direction for the entrepreneur. The whole goal here is to eliminate the gray area, No more guessing, no more maybes, or we'll just see how it goes. By synthesizing all that hard evidence, the framework gives you a highly decisive path forward. Let's break down this table because the 3 potential verdicts are super clear: pursue, pivot, or burn. If the data strongly says pursue, you are given the confidence and the strategic edge to move forward with absolute clarity, knowing your foundation is rock solid. But honestly, the most interesting outcome here is the burn verdict. Listen to this, because it's huge. If the structural mechanics just don't add up and the verdict is to burn the idea, they don't just say no and leave you hanging. Instead, a burn verdict is an active redirection. They show you a much better direction, one that actually fits your specific skills and the current realities of the market. And sitting right in the middle is pivot, which simply means taking a flawed idea and tweaking specific mechanics to turn it into a viable one. So the crucial point is, the verdict studio offers 3 distinct levels of service, depending exactly on how deep someone needs to go into the data. Because let's face it, every entrepreneur and every opportunity carries a vastly different risk profile. This isn't just a one-size-fits-all checklist. If you're looking into a weekend side hustle or a moderately priced online course, you might just need a rapid, efficient sanity check so you don't get scammed. But if you are considering cashing out your entire 401k to buy a brick-and-mortar franchise, yeah, you need a massive, highly detailed feasibility study. The depth of the analysis scales directly with your level of risk. I absolutely love this quote because it reiterates the studio's core ethos. It starkly contrasts their unbiased professional opinion with the industry standard of relentless upselling and hype. They don't sell courses, they don't recruit for multi-level marketing programs, and they absolutely do not do hype. Just a clear, unbiased, professional opinion. In an industry that is saturated with secret mastermind groups and manufactured enthusiasm, this is such a breath of fresh air. They have zero vested interest in you saying yes to an opportunity. Their only loyalty is to the objective evidence and to your ultimate success. Which brings us to a final provocative thoughts to leave you with today. If you were to look at your own current business opportunity right now, putting it ruthlessly through those 5 critical structural pillars we just talked about, what would the actual verdict be? Would the data tell you to pursue, pivot, or burn? It's a tough, sometimes uncomfortable question to ask, for sure, but it is absolutely the most important one you can answer if you truly want to build something successful. Don't let hope, pressure, or a slick sales pitch dictate your financial future. Seek out that irrefutable direction, verify those structural mechanics, and let the hard evidence guide your next big move. Fascinating,
Thanks for hanging out with me.
Evidence-based process from the Verdict Studio. We're looking at exactly how they analyze business opportunities to give you a clear-cut answer on whether an idea is an absolute goldmine, a trap, or maybe just something that needs a little tweaking. If you've ever felt completely stuck or paralyzed by a huge business decision, you're going to absolutely love the structured approach we're diving into today. Okay, let's dive right into this. There's a really powerful quote that drives this entire process, and it goes like this. Most business education sells you theory. This vault sells you autopsies. It just perfectly captures what we're talking about today, right? Instead of vague business coaching or, motivational fluff, we're looking at concrete post-mortem data. The Verdict Studio actually takes real business ventures and dissects them. Today, we're walking through exactly how that diagnostic journey works, starting from the very first form you fill out all the way to the undeniable outcome. So here's our roadmap for the explainer today. We'll start with the studio intake process, then reaching your business verdict, taking a peek inside the autopsy vault, looking at real cases and outcomes, and finally avoiding costly mistakes. Let's jump in. Section 1, the studio intake process. Now, right after you purchase a diagnostic, you're prompted to fill out a 10-minute intake form. And listen, this isn't just basic administrative paperwork. Think of it way more like a medical intake before a major procedure. The entire goal here is to move you from total uncertainty to absolute clarity. The info you provide on this brief little form is exactly what lets the studio give you a precise, evidence-based, and irrefutable direction for your business. So what actually goes into this form? Well, it's broken down into 4 short, highly targeted sections. First up, your details, who you are and whether you've already invested money into the idea. Second is the opportunity itself. You have to list the specific upfront financial commitments like starter kit fees or franchise buy-ins and the exact income they promised you. Third is your situation. They dig into your emotional state here, like what's your biggest fear and what is your ideal lifestyle outcome 12 months from now? Not just money, but peace of mind. Finally, the permission section where you just acknowledge this is a professional opinion, not financial or legal advice. Moving on to Section 2, reaching your business verdict. So, the crucial point here is that you aren't going to get some wishy-washy 50-page report of maybes. What actually happens the moment you hit submit and the studio goes to work? Well, every single analysis results in one of three highly definitive, clear-cut verdicts. Proceed, which means the data is giving you a green light. Pivot, which honestly happens pretty frequently, meaning the core idea is there but it needs a serious structural change. Or the painful but totally necessary kill. And the turnaround for getting that clarity? It's incredibly fast. If you went with the quick diagnostic, you get your definitive verdict delivered within 24 hours. I mean, just 24 hours to know if you're about to make a massive mistake. On the flip side, if you opted for the deep analysis or accompaniment, the studio reaches out right away to schedule a personalized follow-up call. They essentially take it from there. All right, Section 3, Inside the Autopsy Vault. Over the last 6 years, the Verdict Studio has dissected more than 400 businesses. And from those 400 cases, they've actually curated a digital bundle of 10 real, anonymized case studies called the Business Autopsy Vault. And the cost for access? Just $147. Honestly, when you frame that $147 as cheap tuition for the catastrophic mistakes you're now going to avoid, it completely shifts how you look at business education. So what do you get? Inside the vault, each of the 10 autopsies gives you a complete, top-to-bottom breakdown. You start with the original situation and the founder's emotional state, matching exactly what they put in their own intake form. Then you see the exact analysis the studio performed and the red flags they found. You see the verdict delivered. Then the most vital part, the real, actual numerical outcome that followed. Finally, you get the single most important lesson. Remember, these are not hypotheticals, guys. These are actual patterns repeating across all kinds of industries. Section 4, Real Cases and Outcomes. Let's move to the real meat of this and see how it builds. And this brilliantly illustrates the power of targeted, data-driven decisions. Take a look at these. We've got a brick-and-mortar pizzeria that was originally losing $2,300 a month. Their verdict? A pivot to a ghost kitchen. The real outcome? They started profiting $4,600 a month. Then there's the side hustler who was basically on the brink of a $10,000 ad disaster. A pivot verdict guided them to build a $6,000 a month retainer business instead. Or how about the e-commerce brand that went from $1,200 a month to $9,500 a month in just 4 months after a pivot? These specific verdicts literally changed their entire financial trajectories. But hey, it's not always just about the money you can make, it's also about the cash you save. Case 9 in the vault is incredibly dramatic. A tech founder submitted his app idea, went through the whole analysis, and received a definitive kill verdict. By walking away from that bad idea with certainty, he saved exactly $80,000. Wow. This stark contrast is exactly why this process is so absolutely crucial. In the intake form, you list the vague, super optimistic returns you've been sold by whoever, but inside the vault, you get the hard, undeniable truths. Just look at case 7 from the vault, a crypto mining setup with a guaranteed return. Right. The studio's verdict was kill. And the real outcome? 3 weeks after that verdict, the crypto platform vanished entirely. Poof, gone. Which brings us to Section 5, Avoiding Costly Business Mistakes. By studying these cases and this process, who exactly stands to benefit the most? Well, if you're an aspiring entrepreneur with cold feet, a current owner feeling stuck, an investor evaluating a shiny new opportunity, or maybe just someone who's been burned before, this is definitely for you. There's a really powerful concept introduced in the source material. The dead businesses have already paid the price. You don't have to. You should learn from their autopsies instead of just blindly repeating their failures. Oh, and if you want to dig even deeper, the Vault includes an exclusive bonus. You get a discount code for $20 off a future Zoom deep dive with the Verdict Studio. So if one of those 10 cases sparks a very specific question about your own business, you've got a discounted path to get your questions answered directly by the experts. I want to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative question. Are you ready to move from uncertainty to clarity, or will you be the subject of the next autopsy? That 10-minute intake form is your direct bridge to unbiased analysis and irrefutable direction. The patterns are out there, they're repeating across industries, and the data is waiting. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer today. I really hope this breakdown brought some incredible clarity to how you should evaluate your next big move. Keep learning, stay focused, and I'll see you next time. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're doing a deep dive, a literal step-by-step turnaround tutorial on how a failing business and, honestly, a marriage on the absolute brink were completely saved by a ridiculously simple, brutally honest framework. So if you've ever poured your heart, soul, and, your life savings into a project that just isn't clicking, you're going to want to pay close attention to this one. Okay, let's kick things off with a pretty jarring number to set the stage. 12. Just imagine spending 2 full years grinding on a business idea, sinking tens of thousands of dollars into it, day in and day out, and at the end of all that blood, sweat, and tears, you've got exactly 12 subscribers to show for it. I mean, that is just a gut-wrenching reality, right? The $50,000 mistake, high stakes, and sunk costs. So this was the daily nightmare for an entrepreneur named David. He had basically put everything on the line for what he thought was a sure thing, a premium pet food subscription venture. Just look at the sheer weight of this crisis. We're talking 50 grand of his own family's money gone. 2 years of his life just nursing this idea, trying to force it to work. And it all culminated in literally the most stressful scenario you can imagine, an ultimatum from his wife, fix it or close it. He was staring down the barrel of losing his savings, his sanity, and his marriage. Paralyzed by sunk costs, he desperately needed an objective lifeline. Which brings us to step 1, the brutal audit, or looking under the hood. This is where we have to strip away all the emotion, forget the pride for a second, and just look strictly at the hard, cold math of the business. And, well, this clearly shows why David was bleeding out. It was costing him $95 just to acquire a single customer. But the lifetime value of that customer, barely $110. I mean, you definitely don't need an MBA to figure out that spending $95 to make $110 over a whole lifetime is a complete disaster. With margins that razor thin, you're not growing a business, you are slowly suffocating it. Step 2, find the edge, looking beyond the numbers. Because here's the thing, those terrible numbers, they were actually just a symptom of a much deeper, fatal flaw in his business model. The brutal truth that this audit uncovered was that David's product had absolutely no defensible edge. Think about it. In a totally saturated market like pet food, if you don't have something entirely unique to protect you from the big dogs, like, say, a proprietary formula or a crazy cost advantage, you have no edge. You are just another commodity fighting for scraps. And that is exactly why his acquisition costs were through the roof. This realization led to an incredibly harsh, single-sentence verdict delivered straight to David in a one-page report. It read, "Pivot immediately to private label supplement treats with a membership model or kill it entirely." Boom. No sugarcoating, no false hope, just a clear-cut mandate forcing him to finally face reality. Moving on to step 3, the hard pivot, executing the rescue. Because it is amazing how fast objective clarity and a hard pivot can turn a sinking ship completely around. The difference here is literally night and day. On day 1, David is dealing with an ultimatum and a dying business, armed only with this brutal $45 written verdict telling him to pivot to supplement treats and a membership model. But he swallowed his pride and actually executed it. By day 90, just 3 months later, his revenue shot up to $9 grand a month, from 12 total subscribers over 2 years to $9,000 a month in 90 days. That, my friends, is the power of a defensible edge. But honestly, the real victory wasn't even the revenue. It was the message David's wife actually sent to the consultant who delivered that verdict. She said, "You gave me my husband back." Not only was the venture saved, but this exact turnaround saved their marriage. It really proves a massive point. A correct business pivot doesn't just bring in cash, it brings profound peace of mind and lifts that dark cloud off your family. Get your own verdict, applying the framework. So, how can we take this exact brand of brutal honesty and apply it to our own struggling ventures before it's too late? Well, this entire turnaround methodology comes straight from a consultancy called the Verdict Studio. And their track record isn't just theory. It's built on 6 years of tearing down over 400 business ideas and floundering operations. They've worked with startup founders, real estate investors, you name it. Their core promise is that they sell verdicts, not false hope. They tell you exactly what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. If you're looking at your own business right now, realizing you need that kind of clarity, they offer a few avenues to get it. It starts with the exact same $45 written verdict report that saved David's life's work, a clear, actionable PDF delivered in 24 hours. They also have a $90 deep dive, which is a 90-minute real-time Zoom call, all the way up to a $500 accompaniment advisor who practically walks beside you in the trenches. But most folks start right there at the $45 mark. It's kind of a no-brainer investment to save yourself a ton of pain. So here's your big takeaway for today. Please don't be the person who loses absolutely everything just because they were too proud to ask for an objective second opinion. The source material notes you can grab that same $45 report by DMing them the word David. Sometimes literally all it takes is one outsider checking your math to tell you the truth. I want to leave you with one final, absolutely vital question to ponder. As you're sitting here right now, thinking about that struggling venture or that idea keeping you up at 2 a.m., ask yourself, what is it truly costing you to stay in the dark? Is your pride really worth your peace of mind? Face reality, get the verdict, and turn your ship around. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.
Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the business model of a really unique consulting service. It's called the Verdict Studio, specifically their $90 deep analysis. Now, according to our source material, this service is explicitly designed to do one crucial thing: evaluate business investments before you actually hand over your hard-earned cash or your time. We're going to break down exactly how they analyze these ventures and the methodology they use to give everyday people a truly objective edge.
Okay, so let's set the stage here, because the source material points out a massive contrast in the business world. On one side, you have how most people actually make decisions, usually driven by pure hope, right? Or they get completely swept up in high-pressure tactics and those beautifully designed, glossy sales pitches. But on the other side, that's the evidence-based, structural realities. The whole premise here is that it's crazy how often people take massive financial leaps without ever stopping to check the foundational stuff. You know, the actual gears turning under the hood that determine if a business is going to fly or completely crash.
So picture this. You're standing at a major financial crossroads. Maybe you're about to drop some serious money on a new franchise or join an MLM, launch a startup, or even just buy one of those super expensive online courses. Excitement is peaking, right? But so is the financial risk. That's exactly who this service targets. The analysis steps in right at that moment to figure out, hey, is this a structurally sound move, or are you about to make a huge financial misstep?
Which brings us to our first section, the structural truth, looking beyond the pitch deck. Let's get into it.
This brings up a pretty huge question from the text. What are the critical areas you're just skipping over? Look, it is literally so easy to get mesmerized by a slick pitch deck and completely miss how the business actually works. I mean, think about it. The people selling you on this venture, they are absolutely not going to shine a spotlight on their own weak spots. It's entirely on you to uncover those gaps before that check clears.
And to find those gaps, their methodology relies on 5 very specific critical pillars. Number 1, uniqueness. Like, is this actually a new idea or just another copycat? 2, market readiness. Is the world actually ready for this product? 3, real demand. We're talking verifiable need here, not just some made-up projection. 4, brand staying power. Basically, will anyone even care about this concept in 5 years? And 5, maybe the absolute most important, hard unit economics. Do the actual dollars and cents make sense on a per-unit basis? According to the analysis, these 5 things are the ultimate deal breakers. They dictate success or failure, period.
All right, moving on to section 2, the deep analysis. A conversation, not a lecture.
So, this deep analysis is their mid-tier service, and it's priced at exactly $90. Honestly, it's positioned as a highly accessible price point, especially when you think about the context. I mean, clients are often sitting there contemplating dropping thousands, tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars. This $90 intervention is for someone who really wants to go way beyond a generic one-page summary and actually hash out their opportunity with a real expert.
So what exactly does that $90 get you, according to their onboarding docs? Well, it's a 2-step process. Step 1 is a full 75-minute live video call with a Verdict Studio analyst. That is a really solid block of time to just dig in. And then step 2 is a complete written report that gets sent straight to you right after the call wraps up, so you have everything permanently documented.
Now, during that 75-minute call, it's not just someone talking at you. You and the analyst walk through your specific opportunities step by step. You're diving into the uniqueness, market demand, sniffing out hidden costs, and crunching those hard numbers together. You literally get to ask every single question that's been keeping you up at night. You can even push back if you disagree with their findings. The whole point is that it's a dynamic conversation, definitely not a lecture.
Which leads right into section 3, the 3 verdicts: unbiased analysis, irrefutable direction.
So, after all the data is crunched on that live call, every single evaluation ends with one of 3 very clear verdicts. The first one is pursue. Now, this isn't just a pat on the back or a simple yes. The report emphasizes that a pursue verdict is designed to hand you the exact evidence-based confidence and clarity you need. It tells you your exact edge, your strengths, and exactly what tiny pitfalls to dodge as you launch.
The second possible outcome is the pivot. This happens when, the opportunity is almost there, but the mechanics are just slightly off. It's basically a recommended shift in direction. And that written report you get, it outlines exactly how to tweak the business model so it actually aligns with what the market wants, and more importantly, what fits your specific skill set.
And then there's the burn verdict. Now, the source makes a really important distinction here. This isn't just them slamming the door and saying, "No way." It's an intervention. It's meant to stop you from making a disastrous financial decision. So while it absolutely puts the brakes on a bad investment, a burn verdict is specifically structured to say, "Hey, don't do this, but look over here instead," pointing you toward a much sounder direction.
Okay, let's hit Section 4, the risk reversal. Guaranteed value.
This part is genuinely fascinating. The service backs all of this up with a massive risk reversal guarantee. If the analyst findings during your session do not save you at least 10 times that $90 fee, meaning if they don't uncover at least $900 in hidden costs, terrible economics, or give you immediate strategic value, they just give you a full refund, no questions asked.
And it actually gets better, because the source notes that even if you completely butt heads with the analyst, totally disagree with the findings on the call, and decide you want that refund, you still get to keep the complete written report. You walk away with all the data, the summarized findings, the verdict, the pivot recommendations, the whole shebang. It basically makes the entire initial consultation totally risk-free.
So how does it actually work? To book this deep analysis, the onboarding process is super straightforward. You just direct message the word deep to the Verdict Studio. Once you do that, they shoot over a payment link, a really quick intake form to grab some preliminary details about your venture, and a calendar link so you can lock in that 75-minute live session.
Which leaves us with one final pretty heavy question to ponder after looking at this model. Are you actually checking the structural realities before you invest? Are you ready to hear the hard truth? Because as we've seen from the source material, just avoiding the hard numbers is incredibly risky. Sometimes stepping back and getting an objective reality check is literally the best investment you can possibly make. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I'll catch you next time.